Hello. Okay, so day two. It's 10:58, 2 minutes to 11. But I wanted to just come on, get myself a little bit comfortable. So today's live is going to be different. Yesterday I spoke a lot about my healing, my inner work, and everything I said there. It's just how I do things. It's not how, take what resonates, maybe use it in your life and leave the rest. Everybody has a different way of healing, a different way of growing, a different way of learning through trial and error. And yeah, and then like today I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have been working on behind the scenes in my business and putting my CEO hat and what does that look like and how I, you know, shift this perspective and letting go of what's working, what's not working, knowing where to put my energy, like where am I overdoing it in other areas and not doing it in some areas. And so if you are listening to the podcast, I am going on IG Live, so the intro is not the same or anything as that. So I just wanted to kind of like throw that out there. So first thing, so what I'm going to start with is I've been running this business for about, I guess, like 7 years now, but it's been up and down for a long time. It was like there's no clear purpose of like who my clients were, like what I wanted to, like what kind of like coaching I wanted to do. So that was a lot of trial and error. And then officially I got the clarity with like more that spiritual element, the really deep inner work, and incorporating human design, tarot readings, and now Reiki. That was more like 2020, like October 2020. So I would say now we're going towards like 4 years. And there's been learning a lot of what it means to run a business, learning a lot about not just like, hey, I'm going to come on Instagram and talk. There's just a lot of other things that happen behind the scenes, like learning how to build a website, learning how to customize it with like search engine optimization, even though I don't think it's perfect, but I've done a little bit of homework on that. Advertising, marketing, building relationships, maintaining relationships, looking at my products, my services, like my website. There's just a lot of elements and a lot of things that I've had to learn. And in the beginning, I was a little bit resistant because I did go to business school and I graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce. And I was like, in the beginning, I'm like, no, I don't want to do it the way I was taught in school because there was a resistance of like, I want to go against the norm. And I needed to let that go. That was something I needed to work on for myself and really tap into, like what can I take from this that can actually benefit me? Because there's a lot of things that can really benefit what I did learn from business school. And I did actually forget most of it. And not until recently I've been doing this other course on women entrepreneurs and just kind of reminding me again the basics of like building a business, creating a business plan and all that. And I'm glad I'm getting that refresher because I'm taking certain things and I'm like, okay, this is benefiting. And one of the things that I've taken from is creating the foundations in terms of like the different elements of your business. And we had to like brainstorm which like 5 foundations like feel the best for like us, like it's different per person. And the way I kind of see these foundations is like I imagine them like as like flower pots, right? Like you plant the seed in each one and you need to maintain them by watering them, by putting them in the sun or away from the sun. And the 5 foundation pieces that I'm like using for my business is, so the first one is like networking / relationships. So this is where going either to networking events or networking opportunities, relationships like with other business owners, relationships with clients, maintaining relationships, and building that element as well. Because, like if you have been my client, like I'm not like, okay, bye. Like I love to continue chatting and connecting with you even after you like had a session, after you've like been in a container with me. And it's not like, oh, so like it's more like I'm curious, like I was part of your life for a certain period, we dove into certain topics, and I'm like curious to see where you're at. And so that is like, it's that relationship element isn't not just from a business perspective. Like it is a business perspective, but it also is a personal perspective, because I'm like, hey, we worked together, we were friends, like that was cool. Like, well, friends, like client coaching relationship. And so so that's like one foundation. And then another foundation is marketing and advertising. And it's like, how am I, putting myself out there? And is it through social media? Is it through, putting posters like on bulletin boards? Like outside of this, how am I advertising myself? Then the next one is my services. So what are my services? And this is like, what is working, what is not working, which I will dive deeper shortly about that, because like there is going to be a huge shift for that. But what is working, what is not working, and how am I pricing things, and why am I pricing it the way I'm pricing it? And then there's products. So I do have products. I wrote a book, and I actually have digital downloads as well. And so those, again, like, what am I doing with those? And so I am repurposing, not repurposing, that's not the right word. I am updating my book to include journal lines, to make it a little more thicker so that I can have a spine. Because in that way, when it goes to bookstores and everything, it could be on the shelf and you can actually see the title. Because that was something that was like a feedback that I received from many bookshop owners. And so that is like, in terms of products, like that's something I'm working on. Like I just ordered the proof yesterday, so hopefully won't be needing too many proofs, but we'll see. And then last one, what was the last one? Personal. So personal is like, so how am I taking care of me in this, right? Like, as someone who's running a business, who's wearing all the hats, like I still need self-care. I still need me time. I still need, to meditate. This morning I went for a surf. Yesterday I went for a run. How am I taking care of me in all of this? And so what I did is, with all of these, is like I created an intention of like what they mean to me. And then I created goals for each one, for like what I'm going to focus on the next month to 3 months. So what is my focus? And making sure that I'm equally, nurturing each of these foundations, like each pot, because sometimes when we're running a business, we're wearing all the hats. We tend to like narrow and focus on one thing, and then we neglect to focus on the other pots. We'll focus on, marketing and advertising, and then we put our personal pot to the side, and then that, then it's like, there's no self-care, there's nothing happening there. So it is just a good reminder, a good reeling yourself in of, kind of like sprinkling them all, right? Like watering them all so that it's all balanced. Now, there will be times, we're human, I'm human. There will be times where I focus a little bit more on one thing than the other. But this is where like kind of reassessing every couple of months of being like, okay, what's my foundations? What am I doing? What have I done? Where am I going? And so that is something that I've been like really focusing on and getting clear on, like making sure that I'm putting myself out there, that I am building community, that I am building, relationships and connections, and marketing, advertising that. Also looking at my services, like, and that was like something that happened more recently, had to look at my services from a different standpoint. I had to really put on this like CEO hat and be like, because obviously my ego, you know, is attached to my services, right? Because it's like I'm excited. My services is what makes me happy, but I had to put the CEO hat on and see what is actually working, what is not. And that was really challenging because these services are like, it's like it's what I built my business on. But if something isn't working, gotta look at it and why, and where do I pivot, where do I shift, how do I change this. And when people like tend to know me as this particular service, it's a little bit challenging for sure. And so I had this container, and it's my one-to-one container that was focused on inner child healing and shadow work. And it's basically you start at 3 months, and then we, like either you pause or you continue, or you, whatever you decide. And it's really going in to tapping into like healing, like super deep healing. But reality with that is that I haven't really had anybody in that container in a year. There hasn't been anybody that I've done that one-to-one. I've done other things, like people have booked human design readings, tarot card readings, Reiki, energy healings. But the one-to-one container, I had people at one point, but now for the past year, I have had nobody. And I had to let it go. And it wasn't that when I spoke to people, they were not interested. People were interested, but there was always something, always an excuse of something, like whatever it was. I'm not there yet, I'm not ready, or I don't have the money. And then I had to look at, myself and seeing like, okay, wait, what's happening here? And so I had to let it go. It was like, it's a container, it's not working. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to do inner child healing shadow work. Because that's one thing I realized. I'm like, that's something that automatically comes up with me. It just does. Because it's the root of everything, you guys. It is. It's just like, that's where it stems from. And I remember this because I was reminded that I did this money program. I did a money program. I did it as a beta version 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been that long. For those who were in that. And in that money program, I remember I sold it as a money program. But then I'm like, we're tackling money, but we're really actually doing inner child healing and shadow work here. And so I decided I'm going to trust that the universe is going to bring me, the people who are meant to work with me. But then also that the inner child healing shadow work is not going to actually go away. But I am going to shift the focus on what the program is. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do seasonal rotation programs. And I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow. But the idea is, because I go through seasons. I go through seasons where I'm diving deep into inner healing. And then I go through seasons where I just want lighthearted fun. And I want to offer that for those who, wish to continue learning and growing, but it doesn't mean always going into the heaviest depths of depths. And I don't know what the future seasonal programs are going to look like or how it's going to happen. I just know the one that I'm going to do for the summer, and I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. But the idea is that I had to figure out what is the solution that I'm offering. Not the pain points. I'm not going to talk about pain points, like, but what is a solution that I'm offering my clients? And I had to really sit and think, and I had to take the combination of my human design. I took my human design, I took my sun gate, my earth gate. I also took my Venus gate, and really looking at that, I also took my divine centers and how does that work alongside with my variables. And I was like, and then I had to really look at in the past few months, like, who has been coming to me and what are they coming to me for? And what are they getting after they leave the session? And I really had to sit down and look at that. And then I'm like, okay, like, what lights me up in my business? Like, what do I like doing? So obviously, like, the in-person workshops that I'm doing right now for human design, like, I love doing those. Like, every time it ends, like, I go home and I'm like, ah, like, I'm so excited. And I do love one-to-one. I do love my one-to-ones, and I love, like, my Reiki energy healing. I love doing tarot readings. I just love sitting and diving deep with my clients, like, with the human design readings, which have been, like, pretty awesome recently. And I do love all that. And so I had to look at that. And then I looked at, like, there's, like, I mean, I'm going a little bit all over the map here, but I also had to look at, where am I swimming upstream? Because sometimes we think that, so this is interesting. Like, it's not so much like, okay, you want to put in the work, you want to put in the foundations, you want to, really, like, put in your 2 cents, and that, and we've been taught that, we just keep going, and eventually it's going to work out. Eventually it's going to happen. But there's a little bit difference there, where I have to think of, like, where are we swimming upstream, and where are we swimming with the current? Where does it feel easy to do something versus where does it feel hard? And hard, I mean, like, you're just trying and you're not going anywhere. And that is, like, when multiple times in the past couple months I said, I'm not going to focus on IG. And it's like, this is like, I'm just coming on here to share my story. Like, my focus is not IG. Like, I'll throw in a few little things here and there, but the focus that I once had, like, especially when I did 365 days live and was coming and posting on here and sharing every day, all the time, there was no return on investment in that. And so that I needed to, like, shift that. But for example, like, my workshops, all I do is post on Facebook, print out posters, and then I get signups. That to me is easy, and that to me is like, oh, okay, I just, like, throw it on Facebook, like, I just share how human design has shifted for me, and create a little caption, put the information of what they're getting, and post it on the Facebook groups in Whistler, and that's how I've gotten signups. Like, or it's like there's a poster at the yoga studio. And so it really is looking at all of that, looking at what's working, what's not, how is it working, how is it not working, and really diving into it. And so the other thing I needed to look at as well was my pricing. And I needed to look at it in a perspective of, so it's really interesting when you're talking about pricing and you're talking about, like, I mean, there's so many people that have different opinions when it comes to how to price your offers and whatnot. And I do believe, like, I will price what I can get energetically behind. Like, if I price something that is, if I price it and it's too low, I get bitter and I feel it. Like, I know, I'm like, oh, no, I would not be happy. Like, I would not be happy if I had a 1-hour session with this rate with someone, because I would feel like I gave more, like, I know I give a lot, and I would feel like I just gave way too much and I feel taken advantage of. So I know that with like when it comes to low pricing. And then when it comes to high pricing, like pricing higher than what I'm comfortable with, it's like I'm not comfortable with that price point, and then I'm feeling like I'm not, like, am I giving them the money's worth, right? And then there's a pressure to deliver, a pressure to, you know, do really, really good. And so that I know, like, I'm like, okay, what can I get behind it? Every time I want to stretch myself to be like, okay, like, this price I'm not, like, because as I am growing and shifting, right, I'm constantly reevaluating my price points, and I have to look at it as like, okay, this one, it feels good at this point, or maybe like I feel like it's too high, might lower it just because it feels right. It doesn't, like, I know I lowered my digital downloads. I know I lowered those, and that's okay. To me, I'm like, I'm cool with that. Whereas when I'm going to increase prices, for example, then I look at, okay, I'm comfortable saying this amount because I feel good about it. But if I want to stretch myself, then this is where I would offer different offers, different ways. And the higher price points, you get a few more things. But the higher price point of getting a few more things is for me, I'm stretching myself. I'm like, oh, like, can I, like, does that feel comfortable? Does that feel exciting? So that's kind of how I do it. But on the flip side, and this is like something to also think about, is who do I want to work with? Who are my ideal clients? Who do I want to work with? And it's not so much to niche it, but it's more to get an idea of clarity. Who is coming to me for what they need, and what is their lifestyle? Where are they at? What is their budget? Because I had to think of it that way, because I know that there's certain people that I've been in this position that couldn't afford but needed guidance, right? Couldn't afford to be in a certain container with a certain coach because the price was too high as to where I was at in my journey. And then there was times where I've been in a situation where I was like, yeah, like, sign me up, like, no problem. Like, I don't hesitate. I buy, and, and then I get what I need from, the container, the workshop, the one-to-one session. And so I had to think of, I'm like, okay, this is how I purchase. This is how I buy. And so who do I want to come to me? And so when it comes for my lower, so to speak, lower containers, which is like Reiki energy healing, tarot readings, those ones, and then also the digital downloads, those ones are for, I'm like, it's for someone who needs guidance but can't necessarily be at a place where they can afford a one-to-one with me, like, 3 months, 6 months, but they need guidance, and I am more than happy to help them. It is someone who is new in the, self-development world or in the spiritual world. It is someone who either is curious, they want to know what I'm all about, and they want to, like, kind of tap in and get a taste of me, who I am, and my work, but without, like, going in a full-blown commitment of, 3, 6, 9 month container, for example. So I had to really think about, I'm like, so that is what that is. That is also what, the workshop, like the in-person workshop is. It's like, it's for people who want to, like, learn about human design. It's for people who want to kind of get curious, learn, like, also people who want to be part of a community. And that is what I'm offering. But when it comes to my one-to-one, which tomorrow I'll explain what it is, but for my one-to-one, this is someone who has already dipped their toes in self-development. This is someone who's like already been doing it, because when you work with me one-to-one in a 3, 6 month, 9 month, in a length of that container, we go really deep on certain topics. We dive in, and having a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit more of diving into yourself, you are open to going deeper for you. And then I can go deeper with you as well. And so that is what that one-to-one is all about. And it is for someone who wants to grow, who wants to learn, and it's for someone who's at that place financially ready to go for it. And so it's not someone who's just starting, right? And so this is why there's going to be different price points, because it depending on where someone's at in their life. And this is who I am. Like, these are who my ideal clients are. And so that is like, and you'll see tomorrow of like what I'm offering in terms of like my new container for the summer. And it'll all make sense, because I get it. Like, I've been at a place where it's like I want guidance and I can't afford it, or I can just afford one session and I cannot necessarily afford 3 months. But I've also been at a place where I'm like, oh my God, like I want to be part of this and I want to like continue to invest in it, and I'm going all in. And then like, put my money in it, and then I'm like, I'm all in. So I've been in both places, and I know how important it is. For me as a coach, like it's not so much that I can't coach everybody. Like, I can't guide everybody. Like, as much as I would love to, I can't. I am a projector. I'm not meant to. Like, we're meant to have our specific people who we get an invitation from. But I want to guide people who I'm excited to guide. And, whether it's just a, Reiki session, or whether it's a 3-month container. For me, it makes me happy. Either or, depending on where they're at. And that is like, so that is kind of like how I had to look at it. I had to look at, where is my client? Like, where are they at in their life? And what can I offer them with where they're at? And what price points can I offer them in terms of like they feel good about it? And obviously everybody has a different perspective on when it comes to what's expensive, what's cheap. But I'm not here to have that discussion with someone. It's the way it works is that people see my prices and they're either in or they're not. And I can't sit there and convince you it's cheap or expensive, because your perception of what that is completely different than mine. Like I've paid a certain amount for one-to-one that some people might have found very expensive. And then I have also paid some other prices on a one-to-one that other people might think it is really cheap. But that, whatever that price point is, it has nothing, in my perspective, it has nothing to do with someone's worth or what you're getting. You have to connect with the person and whatever they are offering. It's totally up to you to take it or not. And so, yeah, maybe some people might look at certain numbers of my prices and say, oh, like she's to this or to that or whatever. But to me, it has nothing to do with my worth. I'm pricing it based on who I'm attracting. I'm pricing it based on who my clients are and where they are at in their journey and what they need from me. And I know that the clients that are going to come to me are not going to hesitate. And they're going to be like, yeah, I'm ready. Whether it's a payment plan or pay in full, or it's just that one session, that one Reiki or tarot reading session. Or it's just that human design workshop that's just, $50. So these are all the things that have been coming up that I have been diving into in terms of my business and like how I want it to look like, how I want to shift through it. And it is a reminder. It is a reminder because it is not just always looking at like me. And I think that's what I did for the longest time in terms of my business. I was always looking at what lights me up and am I excited to do this, but neglecting the fact of like, what is it that others need and what is that my ideal client needs from me? Because I am a projector and I am here to see through the other as a projector. That's what we're here to do, see through the other. So in the past few months, I had to assess, like, what are people coming to me for? Where are they at? And this is going to make sense tomorrow when I share with you that, which is what I'm going to share with you, my summer containers. So if you are interested, if you have been like listening from yesterday's live to today's live and you're like, yeah, Julie, like there's something, I want to learn more, listen to tomorrow's live or come join me live. I'll be going on at 10 a.m. PST, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, and it's a balance of all of it. So that is what's been going on behind the scenes and how I've been shifting my perspective, how I've been looking at things a little bit differently. And yeah, it was a little bit like when I like had to like close the, get rid of the Inner Child Healing Shadow Work program. But again, it doesn't mean that that's going to go away. It's just going to be in different containers and it's going to look differently. And so that is that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will speak to you tomorrow.